Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 118 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on June 21st, 2022. Why, hello, friends. I hope you're all doing well. I've been in the field all week. Yeah, I have. Well, all 2 days this week so far. Yeah, so I'm already exhausted, which is awesome. I've been doing some really interesting, very high stakes testing, not for PEW Science, but for the other half of my life. So it's been a very good and challenging experience. I need a vacation, but the knowledge that I guess I'm collecting right now is making my brain hurt, but also I'm pretty physically tired. It's very hot. Yeah, being outside right now it's really awesome. That's one thing I really enjoy is being outdoors. But at the same time, man, kind of want to break. Some rain would be nice. Yeah. But one thing I really love about some of the testing and research I'm currently working on is seeing some things fail in really interesting ways. And the failures that are occurring are really impacting the function of a system. And what I really enjoy doing is helping the folks who designed certain systems sometimes understand the nature of failures too. That's really cool. You know, sometimes I do design things, and sometimes when I can work with other designers to help them understand how their designs work or don't work, it's just fun. That's just something I really like to do. So I like that stuff. So that's kind of what I've been working on recently, and I've been kind of inundated with that stuff. So I've been pretty tied up. I've actually been off social media for the past few days. I really haven't been looking at it. And I was out feeding animals this weekend. Man, I left a deer feed pen open for like 5 minutes. Sure enough, the cows took that as an invitation to go in there. They were really stubborn this weekend too. It was really weird. Definitely some cow issues to deal with. I got them all organized. You know, I don't know if you've ever had to organize cattle, but it can be super great. I got them all out of there, but man, it's been so hot lately. I think these cows, they must have been so hungry. They smelled what I was cooking from like a really long way off, and it was like I rang a dinner bell. It was good. It was a good experience. But I'm telling you what, there are definitely strategic things you can do to lure a cow away from food. But it can be very tricky sometimes. So you got to either use some other food that's more tasty, or you kind of got to do what I did and kind of manhandle them out of there. But you're going to have to bear with me today as I muster literally all of my energy to do this episode. But yeah, I think it's going to be cool. I have some good stuff to talk about. And so without further ado, let's get this rolling. The J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop. That's right. We're going to be talking about silencers on this podcast. So if you're new to this and for some reason you didn't know that this podcast talked about silencers a lot, well, strap in because you're going to be here a minute. You know, you can use Silencer Shop's kiosk. You can do your fingerprints and photos electronically. You cut down on errors when you do that, really. You simplify your silencer purchasing process. You get a money-back guarantee. It's great. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. That's right. Thanks, Silencer Shop. And secondly, this podcast is brought to you by True Shot Gun Club out of Arizona. That's right. How do they support that, you may ask? It's pretty simple. You click the link in the show notes. They can be on every episode of the podcast. There has episode description and show notes. There's a link you can click in there. You can do that in your favorite podcast provider or on the website at pewscience.com/podcast. That True Shot link will take you to their website. If you buy ammo using that link, it'll help the podcast and it'll help PEW Science. Pretty simple. You can join their club, their A-Zone membership. It's like the Amazon Prime of ammo. You get free shipping on all of your ammunition for a whole year if you join. And you can use code word PEW Science at checkout and get $20 off that membership. So that's pretty cool. You win, they win, they all win. Everybody wins. You help the podcast. Very simple. And finally, and most importantly, the J Situation Podcast is brought to you by PEW Science, pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It is the simplest and the most accurate hearing safe rating for your suppressed small arms. That's right, based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. That is the key. The entire duration of the event. You're not going to find this anywhere else in the world, only from PEW Science, okay? It's the suppression rating. It's in Section 5 of the Silencer Sound Standard. It's going to walk you through gunshot noise, sort of like Wikipedia, but it blows Wikipedia out of the water because it's more fun, it's cooler, it's about silencers. What's not to love? There's 7 parts. They're all on pewscience.com for you to read. And if you haven't seen it, I understand. It can be overwhelming. Skip directly to Section 5. That's the suppression rating. It's going to let you know how silencers stack up in comparison to one another with regard to sound at the muzzle and at the shooter's ear. And it gives you a hearing safe dose limit for the particular platforms on which the silencers are tested. That's right, directly tied to inner ear response. If the rating is higher, it's going to be less risky for your ears. If the rating is lower, it's going to be louder, more harsh, and it'll probably hurt you more. It's a risk criterion, it's a damage risk criterion, it's a suppression rating. That's how it works. Okay, it's really simple. There's a shot dose scale to help you understand it on the website. That's right. You're not going to find this information anywhere else. So be sure when you're looking at it to keep that in mind. You can go through it. It's all explained on the website. And if you really want to go in detail, if you really want to see those results in detail, Section 6 of the Silencer Sound Standard contains all the reviews. They're very, very detailed reviews. And if those get overwhelming, that's okay. Go to Section 7, and they're all summarized. That's right. All of the data presented is summarized in a nice table, and you can sort it and filter it and pick out the silencers you want to look at. There's a link in the table. You click it. You go back to each review. You can go wild. Okay? That's right. It's like a database, and it's free for you. As always, if you're a manufacturer and you would like to use PEW Science for private testing and consulting services, that happens all the time. I love doing that for you guys. I think it's really helping. And there's a form on the website. You can submit your inquiry right there. That's right. Your contact information, all the test data we generate as part of any contracted effort with any of you folks are all held in strict confidence, unless, of course, you want to release it to the public, which we can certainly do. We can certainly do that. Okay? It's something we do all the time, but we don't have to. It's your choice. You can support this podcast, PEW Science, and all of the testing I do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. It's very helpful. I really appreciate the members who join. It helps keep this going. And there's also a donate function on the website. If a monthly thing is not your cup of tea, or if you're a member and you want to give more, you can go ahead and you can donate there. On the review page, on the podcast page of the website at pewscience.com, there's a donate button. You can give a little bit, you can give a lot of it, or you can give nothing at all. Okay? It's really cool. And if you say, Jay, that's too rich for my blood, I say, I understand, sir or ma'am. You can give the podcast a good rating on iTunes or your favorite podcast provider like Spotify. You rate the podcast, and what that will do is it'll let more folks worldwide know that silencers and guns are awesome, and hopefully we can continue to normalize the use of suppressed small arms through education. That is the PEW Science mission. Okay. Get a drink of water 1 second. Oh, man. This is going to be a rough one for Jay. I got 3 topics for you today. Topic 1. Oh, this is a special one I prepared. So I got a special note for a listener and his dad. Blake, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This one's for you, buddy. All right. And topic 2, Sound Signature Review 678. The Knights Armament QDSS-NT4 on the 5.56 MK18. That's right. Technical discussion. This review just came out. We're going to talk about it. It's awesome. Blast from the past. Literally. That's right. And topic 3, man, received some pretty big contributions recently to PEW Science. Really honored. And the PEW Science efforts really being fostered by generous folks. And all the members and all the clients. It's awesome, and I humbly salute you. I do. And I hope all of you continue to find benefit from the work. That's really, really my hope. And I'm so proud of what we've all built together. So I wanted to kind of touch on that. Okay, let's move into topic 1 at a time of 10 minutes and 3 seconds. Okay, yeah. Special note for a listener, man. And this is, some of you are like, what are you talking about? Stick with me, folks, okay? It's really interesting. Last episode on listener questions, someone asked if any women listen to the show. And in my answer to that question, I remarked that of course women listen. And in fact, I know of several folks that listen with their boyfriend, with their girlfriend, with their wives, with their kids, all kinds of folks. And sometimes when I make jokes and I call this a family show or something, or when I say thank you, sir, ma'am, I'm being silly, but I'm also being serious. All right. I really do think this podcast is for everyone, and I'm trying to make it accessible to everyone in the way I explain things, how deep I go in certain topics, and I just kind of try to make it positive for everybody, so folks can have something to kind of relax and listen to, and not have to worry about stuff. You know what I mean? So last week, a listener named James reached out to me. What's up, man? I hope you're doing well, James. James listens to the podcast, and his 11-year-old son, Blake, oftentimes listens along with him. Okay? What's up, Blake? I hope you're doing better this week, man. Your dad talked to me, and I heard you went through some stuff, so I was going to shout you out today and kind of talk to you and hopefully, make you feel a little bit better. And I say this, publicly on the podcast here because last Monday, Blake was pitching a baseball game, and he took a line drive to the face. Yeah, to the face. In the face. Yeah. Blake was actually in the hospital. Yeah, needs surgery, stuff, stuff like that. Man stuff. Yeah, so stuff that you have to go through sometimes in life. And James said that Blake wanted to listen to the podcast on the way home from the hospital, and also he hasn't been able to watch TV or play games or anything like that, and so it's been audiobooks and this podcast. So Blake, I'm going to tell you a story, all right? When I was a kid, I got hurt all the time. All right, man. Like I did. And I did a lot of stupid stuff. And I broke bones. I got cut. And one time, actually, I broke my arm so badly that the doctors had to put me under so they could use this special machine in the hospital to set it right. Like, no joke, man. Like, I went into shock. It was crazy. Like, it was wild. My arm literally looked like a wet noodle. Like a wet noodle, man. If you ever watch cartoons and you see a cartoon character break their arm and it looks like it's all floppy, you ever seen anything like that? Like almost like a SpongeBob thing. Like, this is like, I'm talking cartoon character, floppy looking arm. That was my arm. That's right. I was a little younger than you, but not much younger, but I was scared. But it ended up being okay. It did. And I didn't think it was going to be okay because my arm literally looked like I could jump rope with it. It looked like I could do jump rope with my arm, man. It was okay. I got a cool cast. The kids at school signed it, and they were like, no, your cast is cool. I'm like, I know. It wasn't cool, but they thought it was cool. You know what I mean? So it wasn't all bad. I got another one, and I got another one for you. One time, I was playing baseball, actually, just like you. Well, not like you, probably not as good as you. I was playing baseball with the neighborhood kids. All right, this was not an official sanctioned game. This was definitely Sandlot style. If you ever seen the movie Sandlot, this is a step down from that. A step down from that. What I used to do. This is a long time ago, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. But I had watched baseball in the old Astrodome in Houston. Right? I used to watch the Astros play in the Astrodome when it's gone now, but it was there. And I would watch Nolan Ryan pitch. And I don't know if you know who Nolan Ryan is, but he was a pretty fun pitcher to watch. This dude was awesome. His fastballs were crazy, dude. Like one of the coolest pitchers to watch in when I was coming up, I think. Anyway, so I'm playing baseball with these kids, and I'm the pitcher, okay? And I'm doing my best Nolan Ryan impression, and I throw what I think is gonna be the craziest fastball that you would ever see. And you know what it was? You know what that pitch ended up being? It was the slowest, down the middle, easiest to hit, fat pitch that anyone could throw. I mean, this pitch was fat. I don't know, Blake, if you know what that means, if they say that nowadays when you're playing ball, but when a pitch is fat, that means that anyone's going to hit that thing. It is right. It's right in the box. It's laid up on a silver platter, and I did not think I was going to throw that. The kid that was up to bat when I threw that pitch hit that. He hit that thing so hard, dude. He got a hold of it. He absolutely blasted that pitch right back at me, and it hit me square in the chest. Like, I'm talking direct to sternum action, like right in the chest. It hit me so hard, it knocked me down. It took the air out of me, of course. And by the way, I was pitching way too close. I was pitching, the mound was not a mound. It was actually a sewer cap that just happened to be kind of close to this other, like, piece of concrete chunk that we used as home plate, which, believe me, we got injured a lot with that. It was not I'm telling you, this is not a sanctioned game. It was not on a regulation field. So I'm real close to this batter, dude. I threw what I thought was a fastball, like right to this guy, really close, and he blasted into my chest. I couldn't breathe. I was rolling around on the ground. I was like a grown-in sack of potatoes, man. And the only reason that thing didn't hit me in the face was dumb luck. Okay? So, Blake, I say all this to say, you're going to get up some mornings, you're going to look outside, you're going to see a beautiful day, and that doesn't mean anything, because sometimes something bad is going to happen. Okay? Or it might be the best day of your life. All right? So one thing to always remember, and you got to listen to this, one thing to always remember is that you never know what the day's going to give you until you live it. Okay? So no matter what can happen during each day, don't worry about it. Okay? You're not supposed to. It's not for you to do, to worry about the day. All right? Because no matter what, the days are going to come. All right? So you got to have fun in every one of them. You're going to get better. You're going to play more ball. And you're probably gonna do stuff that's even crazier, than this. And so you're gonna look back on this. You're gonna laugh about it with your buddies. And the reason I know that is because, like your dad, I've just been around longer. All right, and that's how things go, man. You take more trips around the sun, and you just learn these things, and then you're gonna end up saying the same thing as someone else later. That's just how things go, man. So hang in there, all right? And I bet if you play your cards right, your dad's gonna let you shoot some cool silencers. Tell him that I told you he has to now. He's probably listening too. So that alone means you're a pretty lucky kid. All right, man. So thanks for listening. I hope you're back and feeling better soon. And I just trust me, man. It's gonna be all right. Okay? Hang in there, buddy. Okay. Topic 2 at a time of 19 minutes and 28 seconds. Okay. That's right. Topic 2, Sound Signature Review 678. We did it. We made it to 78 articles. And you know what? I want to take a second to, in that previous topic, Blake and his dad, they listen to his podcast all the time. I think his dad told me one time that they listen to it, and Blake, he doesn't he's 11 years old. He's not expected to understand everything I say on this podcast, because we're about to go probably into combustion physics, frankly, in this topic. But the kid's picking up on stuff. He's listening to it. Isn't that cool? So we're essentially, and when I say we, the entire PEW Science community, are providing information for everyone, accessible to everyone. And so now we're going to talk about, and isn't that cool? So this gives you a flavor for what types of folks are listening to this podcast. We got soldiers, law enforcement, hobbyists, kids, brothers, sisters, wives, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody. It's for everybody. Okay, so this topic, Sound Signature Review 678, Knights Armament Company, KAC. It's the NT4, guys. It's the QDSS-NT4. And we put it on the Mark 18. I tested it. I wrote the article. I published it on pewscience.com. And now let's talk technical, all right? And this is a crazy test. First of all, who the heck tests a silencer that came out in the 90s? And puts it on a website in 2022? PEW Science, that's who. That's right. Yeah, 2022. This came out in the mid-90s, the silencer. The Knights Armament NT4. The QDSS-NT4. Excuse me. Yeah, the good old corn cob. Yeah. I say corn cob because it looks like one kind of. We'll go into that. We will go into that. It's really heavy, this silencer. It's pretty heavy. And how heavy is it? I just pulled up the article on pewscience.com. In the description here, because I waited. Oh, yeah. With the flash hider that it mounts on, 23.5 ounces. You're going to feel that on the end of your gun. Believe me. Yeah, you put an NT4 on the end of your gun, you're going to feel it. And it's heavy, and it's old, and it's kind of weird. But it's one of the most prolific silencers in the history of silencers. Okay? And some of you might not realize that. So there is a method to the madness. It's why I wanted to test it. And when I got the opportunity, I seized it, because this is really one of the most prolific silencers ever created. This is on more rifles than a lot of other silencers are ever going to hope to be on. Okay? It's cool. I included it in the Silencer Sound Standard because it's important. But I also included it because I have also tested the Knights Armament QDC and the QDC CQB 5.56 silencers. You just had to pardon me. My throat is just really not doing well right now. 1 second. I'm going to be fighting that battle this whole episode, I think. What was I saying? Oh, right. I included the NT4 because I've already tested the QDC and the QDC CQB. And so I was like, okay, well, what I need to do, I definitely need to publish the NT4 data before I publish the QDC data. It's only fitting. You can't put the cart before the horse, so to speak, right? And I wanted to do that so some really good comparisons can be made later. And so also I want you to know that, all you folks to know that old is not always bad. Okay? There's some foreshadowing for you. Yeah, there's some foreshadowing. So anyway, this NT4 review was made possible by the fine folks at T-Rex Arms. That's right. Lucas loaned me his personal silencer to test. And by the way, T-Rex Arms is a corporate member of PEW Science. They support the effort. They have access to all the data, and they really put their money where their mouth is, and their support is real, not just in their monthly contribution, as a corporate member of the effort, but they're reaching out to me and loaning me silencers to test. They've even offered weapons and other things, and talked with me about other sophisticated testing we might get into. I mean, this is as far as examples of, corporate supporters of PEW Science, T-Rex is an active one. Okay? So big shout out to them. They're a really good organization. They do great work. They make some cool products. To be honest with you, I haven't used any of their products before. I'm sure I will eventually. I'll probably buy some. But, just support them like they support me. But, they're cool. And this was Lucas's, personal silencer. And it has a lot of rounds through it. But it really doesn't look bad inside. Okay, this thing is a tank. And these silencers are really, really durable, these NT4s. And with this episode, what I'm going to do, I'm going to post a picture of Lucas's silencer on one of my old school uppers, probably. I feel it's fitting. It looks cool, and I'm about to Form 3 this thing back to T-Rex, so I'm not going to have the silencer anymore. It's going back. So, before I give it back, just take another picture. That might be the last photo you see of an NT4 from me, unless I somehow find one, because they are rarer than hen's teeth right now. Because KC got a pretty big contract. Yeah, you heard that right. They got a big contract for these silencers, even though they're really old silencers. That's right. Yeah, and I think all the resources seem to be directed toward contract fulfillment, really, at this time. So that's probably why you're not able to get one. I kind of want one. I'd love to buy one if I could find one to buy. I just couldn't find one. Otherwise, I would have bought one. I would have tested it. I would have tested that. But hey, here we are. Just as good, I think. So this silencer is pretty neat, and you can't really get it easily, but we can talk about its performance because it's very interesting and very unique, actually, okay? So I think it's going to be a great discussion. I think it's a good peg point. So before I go into the technical performance details, you kind of need to know, I think, about the basic design. Okay? This thing was made in a time when durability was about to get pushed. Okay? Folks really didn't know how far it was going to get pushed or how. They didn't know really what the demands were going to be. Knight's Armament really didn't know at first, I don't think. And, what they did was they used an Inconel steel alloy in this silencer. And, a lot of you're probably nodding your heads. You're like, and you know about it now. Like, the old Arnold quote in True Lies. He's like, I know what this is. And you're all like, I know what this is. Like, you know what Inconel is. And, but back then, nobody had really used a steel alloy with high nickel content in silencers, in at least at a large scale. I mean, it was kind of a newer thing. And those baffles are incredibly resilient under high temperature, as is the tube itself. Excuse me. But the resiliency is not unlimited. Okay? This is important. Now, during the durability testing of the silencer, the tubes were failing. And this is I've heard this from multiple sources, and I actually got to speak with someone who worked at Knight's Armament at the time when the silencer was developed. So this silencer had tubes that were failing in development, and in an effort to retrofit the design and keep it going, they took a perforated steel outer girdle, almost like a mesh, but more robust. Okay, it's basically steel sheet, but has perforated holes, and they welded it on the outside of the tube. You see, on the outside of the main silencer tube. So why do they do that? Why does the NT4 have that outer mesh, that outer cage? And how does it help? Well, On this podcast, we've talked about several times, silencers are dynamic pressure vessels, right? We've talked about this. And the vessels get pressurized when you shoot. They do. Every time you shoot, they get pressurized. And the pressure bleeds down, right? And this happens over and over and over again as you shoot, okay? Now, something else that happens when you shoot a silencer, as this pressure goes up and down and up and down and up and down, is that everything gets hot. Yeah, excuse me. Everything gets hot. So you're creating loads in this silencer pushing outward and going away. And you're pushing outward and it's going away. And these loads, what do loads do to an object when you're doing that? What's happening? What's actually happening to the silencer when these loads are pulsing? What's happening? Well, the stress is created. Okay, you develop stress in the material, and the stress gets high in the material, and then it dissipates, it goes away. The stress gets high in the material, and then it dissipates and it goes away. And as long as the stress, in all the different ways it is stressing, so the load is stressing this material or creating stresses in this material, in this structure, this silencer, in a lot of different directions. It's wanting to pull the silencer apart like a hula hoop. Right? You understand what, if you're in a hula hoop, it wants to pull it apart. It wants to pull it apart like a long piece of Laffy Taffy. Like you want to pull it, stretch it long ways. It even wants to bulge it like a weird balloon. It wants to bulge it too. Yeah. As long as these and I'm being very simplistic right now, and I'm making some gross assumptions about certain geometric parameters. All of you engineers out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is for everybody. This is not for you. Okay. As long as these stresses, when you combine them all, because believe me, they do combine. As long as these stresses, when you combine them all, stay below values that the material and the geometry can withstand, you're good. Okay? But when things get hot, they can't withstand as much stress without what we call plastic deformation. Okay, this is the nature of materials. And what does that mean? Well, that means that if something goes plastic, what does that mean in mechanics? When something goes plastic, well, that means that the material deforms permanently. Instead of coming right back like a rubber band snaps back, it might go beyond the point of no return and fail in a nice, safe way. Like a stretch. You might be able to fail something, and sometimes you take a rubber band and you pull it and a little bit and you let it go and it comes right back, right? Sometimes when you pull a rubber band and you pull it and you pull it, and sometimes it starts to stretch in this little weird way, and you can tell, oh man, I'm about to break this rubber band. But then you let go, and then the rubber band didn't come back to how it was before. It had this permanent deformation in it. You plastically deformed it, didn't you? You went beyond the elastic limit of the material. Now, a rubber band is a very special case. It's not a metal, so it has actually some different properties, but the example will do. Okay. So you can do that. These plastic deformations, the what happens when a material fails, and it fails so that it doesn't come back to the way it was before? Sometimes that happens gradually. And when I say gradually, I mean slower than certain hazards. This is really, actually, the analogy for this is really complicated. How am I going to explain this? It can be a more gradual failure, but sometimes things can happen in a more sudden way, and the failures can happen in a more sudden fashion, and this might be a more brittle failure, like a fracture. Okay, that might be a little more different than something stretching before it fails, right? When something just fails suddenly, like it fractures, it might be different, right? Okay. So, what happened to the NT4 during testing? This Knight's Armament silencer, the QDSS-NT4, when they were testing with a lot of different ammo. Well, they were firing a lot. And for the time, they were firing a lot. Okay? So, and with different types of ammo, different types of ammunition. And that caused a lot of heat. And the different types of ammo caused different types of internal loading, right? What have we learned? What have we learned about different guns with different silencers and the pressures involved? Well, if the sound signature is super different, well, there's something going on in that silencer. Different ammo will do different stuff. Certain ammo is going to be a little higher pressure. So what happened to the NT4? Well, pop goes the NT4. Popcorn. Well, it wasn't corn yet, though. See? Maybe that was foreshadowing. Because what can you do? What can you do? Well, I mean, what? You're going to change the tube wall thickness because you didn't quite calculate the combined stress state in the tube from these loads at elevated temperature? You're going to change the whole tube? Well, you could. You could definitely change the tube wall thickness. That could help. What if you could solve the problem, still meet the requirements, and just do a retrofit, though? What if you just add something? And that, I tell you what, retrofits are sometimes really attractive in the real world for when you need to get through something. Maybe it's not a silencer, maybe it's a different thing, but retrofits happen. That's what the corncob girdle's for. That's right. I talked about the different stress states in a pressure vessel, really, in a silencer, in the walls of the silencer. There's different. The radial stress is really thin wall vessel. It's fine. The longitudinal stress probably wasn't much of their issue, although it was happening. It was combining. It was the tangential stress. I think. Yeah. How do you help with that? You give it more material, more cross-sectional area. That's what the outer welded cage on the NT4 does. It's just a tension member for hoop stress, guys. That's all it is. That's what the girdle is. Nothing more. That girdle on the outside of the NT4, the thing that makes it look like the corncob, it doesn't help with heat dissipation. It doesn't do some special signature reduction wizardry. It's a Band-Aid. Okay? It's a Band-Aid so the silencer doesn't blow up when it gets really hot and you shoot a lot through it. That's what that's for. It's so the silencer won't break. That's literally what it's for. So there's no special sauce there. Hey, but hey, that's not the only Band-Aid on the NT4. No, it had another boo-boo. It needed a Band-Aid. And again, the guy, thanks to my friend Joe Godini for speaking with me about this over the years. Actually, Joe, the founder of SWR, he was working at Knights back then, and the gate latch on the silencer was coming loose. Okay, it was coming loose too. So there was a quick solution Joe came up with, that C-clip you see on the silencer there. It rotates and it holds the gate latch down so it doesn't come loose. That C-clip you see, that was intended to be temporary. Been on these silencers ever since. That's what he told me. You still see it. I have this right in front of me. I'm holding it. Man, this thing's heavy. It's so wild. This little C-clip. It's been on there ever since. So the gate, you rotate it. You rotate it. If you're pointing the silencer away from you, you would rotate it counterclockwise, and it then goes over the gate latch, so the gate latch cannot open. And that C-clip, it made it out the door, man. It performed, met the requirements. It's been fielded. This NT4, man, it's been fielded in a significant amount of places over the years, and it may be heavy, it may be old, it may be a little sloppy. Really, it is a pretty sloppy silencer when you hold one and you put it on the gun, but it looks cool. And it actually, with regard to signature reduction, it actually performs really very well, very well. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the performance, okay? All right, let me get some water. What are we, 40 minutes in? We're making great time. Okay, now pull it up. I have this review up right now on pewscience.com. Sound signature review 6.78. Okay, you can follow along at home if you want, but you certainly don't have to, okay? It should be, I'll try to describe things correctly for you. Now, at the top of the page, bottom line up front, 29.1 composite suppression rating on the Mark 18. 27.2 at the muzzle, 23.2 at the ear. Boy, howdy. How about them apples, man? Yeah, that's amazing. I tell you what. I mean, think about this. I mean, it's quite the suppression rating on the Mark 18 for mid-90s technology. We're not talking about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, dude. Guys. I mean, I'm looking at the little clock on my computer here. It says it's June 21st, 2022. So, this is mid-90s? Guys. Well, you got a 30-year-old silencer. You got a silencer older than some of you people listening. Okay? I mean, 27.2 at the muzzle on a Mark 18 30 years ago. There was no Mark 18 30 years ago. Understand? That's right. It's quite the rating, and I would say, wouldn't you say? I mean, you kind of have to agree here. I mean, you have context, right? So let's go through it. So you scroll down past table 1, all the way down to figure 1. That's right, figure 1, the fingerprint. And boy, oh boy, this is actually becoming one of my favorite things to do. Look at these fingerprints. And in figure 1B specifically, I put 3 of them. I put shot 1 and shot 2 and shot 3. That's right, all on top of each other. And if you're following along at home, you can click on the figure and make it bigger, actually. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to click it too. Boom. I have it right here in front of me. The figures do look better in higher resolution. If you click them, make them bigger, you can see more detail. And I do that. So the reason why you click and make it bigger, that way when you're viewing on a mobile device or a desktop, it'll be easier to see, like load faster. And then when you click it and make it bigger, it's more accessible. I think that's good. I like that. And so you can see that those waveforms for shot 1 and shot 2 and shot 3, the black, the blue, and the red in order there, you can see that they're right on top of each other in early time, aren't they? Interesting, right? And it's a pretty interesting signature, actually. And remember, this is a dedicated bore 5.56 silencer. Okay, so the bore is definitely smaller than a 30 caliber silencer, right? Like, for example, and it's going to restrict more flow than a 30 caliber silencer, isn't it? Okay. So because of that, a lot of the features you see in early time, like in the early time muzzle signature in figure 1B, they're similar to 5.56 silencers in a way, but the NT4 seems to let gas out a little faster. It does overall. Now, I made some notes in the article and some bullet points, and we can go through them right now, because this is actually kind of complicated, and there's actually no way around it. There is no way around the complication. It is just, it's in the data. It's really in your face. Okay. So, but I wrote it down and I summarized it in a pretty concise way. And we can go through it right now so you can see some of the differences between the NT4 and some of the other dedicated 5.56 silencers, okay? And so we'll go through them one by one now. And if you scroll down, and you scroll down past figure 1A and 1B and 2A and 2B, you'll get to the words below that and I have some bullet points and stuff. So the first bullet point, okay, how about this? How am I going to do this? What I'll do is I'll read the words in the article in the bullet point, and then I'll kind of explain what I mean in different words. That way maybe it'll be more clear if you didn't understand the article, okay? And so first bullet point, unlike the sacred 5.56 and the polonium, the QDSS-NT4 exhibits a greater direct coupling of muzzle blast with bullet shock. Okay, that's in figure 1B. So what does that mean? Well, the NT4 has more muzzle blast coupling with bullet shock. So what is this? It means you're getting your shock wave off of your bullet per typical supersonic 5.56 out of Mark 18. That happens. It's per typical, but the muzzle blast is coalescing with it more than a super high flow restriction 5.56 silencer would let happen. Okay, more and so in even more plain English, more muzzle blast comes out early with this silencer. Okay, so a little more flow rate at first, not a ton, but a little more. Just a little more combustion products coming out and with a first round pop, and the way it's shaped, it's just the way the jetting happens. It's pronounced, and it is definitely measured and apparent in the data. Okay, so it's a pretty good conclusion there. And then the second bullet point, I say in the article, unlike the SOCOM 5.56 RC2, the QDSS-NT4 produces more severe gas jetting in early time, which becomes progressively delayed during the shot string. This is where we're getting complicated. One second. This is when you have to wonder what the heck's going on. So what do I mean in the second bullet point? What I mean is that when you get more severe jetting in early time than with the RC2. At first, it sure is letting out more severe jetting, and you can see it in the early time peaks. You compare the figure 1B in both of the reviews, the RC2 and the NT4, and you're going to see the difference. It's more severe with the NT4. So hold on, and it progressively delays. Okay, so hold on to that thought. Now, third bullet. Now, unlike all the silencers we just talked about to compare the Saker, the RC2, and the Otter Creek, the NT4 produces significantly steep initial positive phase impulse slopes after shot 1, which gradually decay and then significantly decrease during and after shot 4. Okay, that's a mouthful. So what am I saying there? What I'm saying there is that the jetting is happening so much in those early shots that the initial impulse slopes steeper, and after shot 3, it gets more shallow. Okay. You can see it happen if you click on, this is really good for you to look at, if you click on figure 2A, make it bigger. Figure 2A, and make it bigger. You're in the impulse space instead of pressure. And you can see it happen, man. It's really crazy. You get that first round pop slope. Notice that the peak amplitudes are not really deviating that much. This is a timing thing, and it's this silencer. I swear, it is doing something interesting. We'll talk about it, but that extra combustion in early time shoots up, then it shoots up just as fast in shot 2 and shot 3, but then it starts to decay sooner. And then right after shot 3, it seems like, oh, we're gonna shoot up kind of fast, and then boom, we're gonna really slow our roll, and the slope really takes a more shallow path. Shot 4, shot 5, shot 6. And you know what's really interesting is you can start to see this in the inner ear analysis, which is wild too. And it's just a really interesting artifact of how the silencer behaves. Okay, so that's the bullet point 3, and the fourth one, and this is where I'm talking about that inner ear response. I'm going to read this fourth bullet point on in the article. PEW Science inner ear response analysis indicates that the silencer also gains suppression performance as the shot string progresses. The silencer has minimally perceptible first round pop, and the analysis indicates that the silencer may not stabilize in signature suppression performance after the first shot until later shots in the string. That's right. The KAC QDSS-NT4 signature is more severe after the first shot and is measured to normalize after the fourth shot. Okay, so let me say that in a different way, guys. The silencer gets quieter as you shoot it. All right, it's very common for a silencer. But what is kind of weird is that the NT4 is pretty quiet for the first shot, guys, and then it's a little louder, and then it settles down again. Overall, a silencer it's a very unique signature, and it's a very unique signature sequence. Okay, very unique progression when you fire it. Okay. It's really interesting. And I got a couple of theories. We got a couple of theories on why it happens. And I think what you're doing, I think what you're quenching that FRP really effectively. Your first round pop is getting nullified. I think that's due to the silencer being constructed in a relatively crude way and the fact it's a Mark 18. So you're probably getting you're getting pockets in the silencer that still have air or unburned powder in the crannies, or something's in there, and you're fueling extra combustion in shot 2 and 3. So you have these awesome baffles with a lot of surface area. We'll talk about that. You got this really efficient baffle core in the NT4. These really efficient baffles, and you're able to stop combustion propagation in a certain way to really essentially cut off certain areas of the silencer in time, or expose them to enough surface area in time to really nullify that FRP, at least to the human ear with regard to damage. And then in shot 2 or shot 3, I think you have these pockets that really need more exposure. What do I mean? So I think you have to shoot the silencer enough and get it hot enough to get it to normalize. I think there's too many nooks and crannies in it. I think the fact that you have such low FRP, I think might be one of the same reasons you don't fully get rid of extra combustion in the next 2 shots. I think the KAC baffle design and the way those baffles are put in the tube and then spot welded in there, I think it's very good at isolating combustion propagation. I think the FRP burns out like you're snuffing a candle. I mean, that's a very crude way to say that. It's not really true. I think it's a really neat baffle. If you've never seen a KAC crimp cone baffle design, basically star-shaped looking, it has a cool step on the front of it, and it has a ton of surface area. It's got a ton of surface area on this thing. It's pretty cool. And I think it's such a unique baffle. And it's definitely been copied by others. It's been copied. Like, I'm talking copied. I'm talking ripped off copied. Not by a lot of people, but by some people. Like B&T, dude, they tried so hard to copy this baffle in several silencers. B&T tried to copy this, and they don't work as well in the B&T silencers. B&T machined some silencers to look like these baffles because Knight's Armament has these crimp cone baffle in, okay. So Doug Olson at Qualitech back in the day came up with a way to just crimp this tube into a cone. It looked like a crimp cone, and he made that baffle design pretty good, or at least Qualitech made it pretty good when he was there. And then he started working at Knight's Armament. And then so he used that technology from Qualitech in the Knight's Armament silencers. Okay? And then every single Knight's Armament silencer uses a crimp cone baffle. The pistol cans, the rifle cans, they all use it. Okay? So they were using these in the pistol silencers. Well, B&T tried to copy it. And they put one in their like Impulse. I know at least in the Impulse 2. I want to say it's the Impulse 2. I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know for a fact B&T has these machine baffles that they are dead nuts copies or attempted copies of this type of geometry, and they don't work as well. According to folks that have shot the the B&T versions of the night stuff, they say it doesn't work well. Now, I don't know that. I haven't tested B&T stuff. I'm sure I will. But and this goes back. Okay, this is not current stuff. I actually don't know if they're still selling that baffle. But no one is gonna argue that was a copy. Like, you look at it, you're like, whoa, dude, that's like a Knight's baffle, but it's machine. That's weird. How did you do that? It's just interesting. I thought that was interesting. And because you look at them, if you compare them real close, like if you compare the edges and the surface area and the leading edges and the thickness and, all the stuff that makes baffles work like really well, if you're a silencer designer and you know about, if you compare all those little parts, they're not the same. And it's kind of apparent probably why it doesn't work as well, honestly. But that's just some trivia for you. Silencer trivia. I just thought that was it. I didn't want to go too far off on that tangent, but just so you understand some stuff about the silencer. Now, the efficiency of these baffles, though, man, I'll tell you what, that's a really cool part of the silencer. A really cool part of the NT4. I'm a fan of unique stuff because I just think, and the NT4 has the signature that's so unique, and I love it. It's cool. It's a really cool part of the silencer. 27.2 with the muzzle, guys, on the Mark 18 with the design from the 90s. I'm going to say that again. At the ear, this thing is hitting 23.2. That's basically RC2 level, if not better. It's a little better than RC2 at the ear, right? I mean, it's basically the same. So it's really cool to see how those two silencers are similar at the shooter's ear on the Mark 18. RC2 came out way after the NT4. Guys, come on, man. Different sport, really, with the technology available. Guess what? I mean, Surefire's using Inconel. Why do you think Surefire's using Inconel? I mean, Knight's Armament used Inconel in the 90s. Isn't that cool? It's cool to see these progressions, these design progressions and inspirations and technology advancement over decades and decades and decades of research and development and industry just progression, right? It's interesting. And you know what's also really interesting? I was also thinking about this. It's interesting how similar the performance of the NT4 is to the Trash Panda. And if you want, I still have the article up here. If you scroll further down, all the way. I'm in the member review. I was like, what is all this? It's just extra. If you scroll down, there's a lot. You should definitely, man, guys, you should definitely read this review if you haven't. I think there's a lot in here. It's good for you. If you scroll down to Figure 5, the bar graph there in the Sound Signature Review 678, with all the 5.56 silencers listed there. I think it's really, you're sitting right there by the Trash Panda. It's sitting right there by the Trash Panda because it has a little bit more flow restriction than the Trash Panda. And I try to make the order of those plots in accordance with the Omega 5.56 parameter that I've computed that I haven't published yet. But anyway, they're in order. So on the Mark 18, the Omega 5.56 for the Mark 18, which, by the way, differs from the original thought I had when I was going to create Omega 5.56. Originally, I think I wrote this in Research Supplement 640. I think I don't really feel like, I'll click on it. Damn it. I was going to guess. Hold on a second. Do I have a link? Don't make me click somewhere else. Jay, why did you not write things down? Here. Okay. I clicked on it. I'm going to scroll down. This is really going deep, but just bear with me. If you go to Research Supplement 640 and you scroll down to figure, oh crap, this is 42. Oh my god. Well, guess what I just did? I just found an error in my article. I just clicked a link for the back pressure metric, and it was a wrong. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. Well, now I just created work for myself because I just found a problem. Okay. Research supplement 640, table number 1 and 2 for that matter. Originally, when I was thinking about the omega 5.56 metric, I made these example tables to show what something one could do if one were so inclined when creating these metrics. I had listed 3 different barrel lengths in these tables: 20-inch for 308, 16-inch for 5.56, and 8-inch for 300 blackout. I had done that because, well, we have an 8-inch mini fix, and that's a wonderful method for that for 300 blackout for 7.62 by 35. And then 20-inch for 308 because we have that data too. Now, for 5.56, I had not yet selected a 5.56 test host for PEW Science for public publication outside of what I had done for manufacturers behind the scenes and internal PEW Science R&D. So I was like, well, 16 seems prudent for this because of what I know about the 5.56 by 45 cartridge. Never in a million years did I think we were going to select a 10.3. Okay? So when I talk about omega, it is omega 5.56 that I've been computing, but I've been doing so for the Mark 18. And that's not necessary. That's not why I haven't published those actual numbers, but it is something to think about. So when you look at the figure 5, and now I'm going back to the current review. Okay, so that's just my aside that I wanted to reference those tables so you understood the context here. When you go back to figure 5 in this review and you see the order of these silencers, they're in the order of omega 5.56 asterisk 10.3 or whatever, however you want to delineate that. It's likely that those flow rates, okay, let me say that again. Let me say it a different way. It's likely that the relative order stays the same if we were to do an omega 5.56 computation on a longer barrel 5.56, but then again, it might change somewhat because of incomplete versus complete powder burn and the length of the barrel and different shock physics too, plus duration. So there's because the jet diameter is relatively the same. Problem is you actually change some stuff when you lengthen the barrel with different flows. So there's so much going on when you change barrel length with 5.56. But you can rest assured when I'm saying the Trash Panda and the NT4 are similar, guys. 1 second, I can get into water. When I'm saying they're similar, they're not only similar in signature, they're similar in flow rate. And Trash Panda has a 30 caliber bore. I mean, I don't know exactly how. Actually, let me pull at real time. I'm going to pull up my calculations really quick. Hold on. I have a calc sheet for this. Oh, where is it? Is this it? Here it is. Okay. This number here. Yeah. In fact, they are. I'm looking at the numbers, the actual numbers. Yeah. The Trash Panda and the NT4 have incredibly similar omega 5.56 parameters on the Mark 18. And look at their suppression ratings too. Now that's a coincidence, but for the omega metric to be so similar, for the flow restriction to be just the very fact that the Trash Panda and the NT4 are sitting next to each other in this chart, which implies that they're ranked with similar flow restriction due to the amount of silencers we have on the chart, is so interesting to me, because the Trash Panda is a 30 caliber bore. But it has that cherry bomb, doesn't it? And this is a Mark 18, isn't it? But isn't that interesting? And the fact that their muzzle suppression ratings are pretty much identical, meaning that do the silencers sound exactly the same? Well, no, they don't sound exactly the same. They have different signatures, they're different silencers, but the postulated hearing damage risk to bystanders 1 meter left of the end cap of each silencer is the same. It's the same. And the at ear signature severity is very similar. I mean, it looks like on this chart, the NT4 is a little bit less damaging to your hearing. The suppression rating at the shooter's ear is a little bit higher than trash band at 23.2 versus 21.7. Okay, so a couple points different. But it's pretty similar. It's in the ballpark. The trash pan is actually one of the most balanced silencers for the Mark 18. But, the NT4 does the very similar thing in a much more durable package from 30 years ago. And this is not, you understand, you see how I'm wording these sentences that I'm saying off the cuff here. I'm not throwing shade at anyone. I'm not praising anyone necessarily. I'm just telling you how incredibly crazy that is. Who has ever told you this? If someone asked you, well, what is how loud is the Knight's Armament NT4 on a Mark 18? And someone said to you, it's about like a Trash Panda. If someone said that to you 6 months ago or last month, what would you have said to them? You would have been like, you're out of your mind, shut up. Unless you shot the silencers, and then you would have been like, yeah, I could see that. And guess what? It's real. Isn't that wild? Okay, you're not going to put a trash pan on a Mark 18 and expect great performance. It's going to shoot sparklers out there. You're going to destroy that silencer in short order if you put it through any type of abuse on a 10.3 inch 5.56. But that's not the point. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the gross signature is extremely similar in severity, and that is insane when you consider really the pedigree of all this stuff and like who's behind the silencers and like the history of like the silencer industry over the past 30 years. To see the trash panda next to the NT4 and see those numbers like that, that's pretty historic, I will say. Okay, now this also goes to show there's a lot of ways to skin this cat. All right, and I think it's worth going through some comparisons because for such an old silencer, I think it's important to understand how it stacks up to stuff now. And the silencer's been out for such a long time. Okay, let me get water 1 second. Man, my throat is. I'm either about to get sick again or I'm about to lose my voice. We're gonna find out. Okay, he laughs in terror. Now, at the shooter's ear, this NT4 is it's similar to the RC2. It's similar to the trash. Look, it's similar to the KGM R556. All these silencers have higher flow rates than the NT4, and the shooter's ear, this thing's doing the same. It's basically the same. It's a little better. Now at the muzzle, it's more like the HX QD556. Okay, the OSS, the Huxworks HX QD556. That's basically what this NT4 is doing. Okay, that's interesting. And it's identical to the trash panda severity, like I just said. Interesting. That's another thing. Who on earth would say, well, a trash panda and an OSS HXQD 506 have the same hearing damage risk to bystanders? Who would have said that? PEW Science. That's right. Isn't that crazy? Now look at this. RC2, it's going to be quieter bystanders than the NT4 by a lot. And that's an important data point for people that are interested in the NT4, because you're probably the same crowd that would be interested in the Surefire. So what does that mean? Well, if folks are shooting the Mark 18 and they think the NT4 sounds good when they hear you shooting, like if you're shooting an NT4 and your buddy is over beside you and he hears it and he thinks it sounds good, well, that's on your Mark 18. Well, that's a good peg point, because that means the RC2 is going to be even less damaging to their ears, which means a better signature. So if you want to compare the RC2 to the NT4, now you have real data. Okay? Now you have real data. It's a pretty big pet point, guys. A lot of people debate RC2 versus NT4 all day long. I think Surefire is better. I think Knight's Arm is better. Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, this is quieter. This is louder. It's like, okay, cool. Mark 18, standard test host, standard rifle, standard gas port, standard buffer tube, standard spring, standard stock position, same shooter, same method. PEW Science, look at the data. Now you have the answer. No one has ever shown you that. I don't care who you are. No one's shown you data like this. Now you understand. You know, a lot of people come to me every day. They say, man, I always thought my Surefire sounded so good. Everyone said it wasn't. And I talked to my buddy, and they use a war comp, and maybe that's why they didn't think their Surefire was good. And I was like, and I don't. I use a 3-prong, and it sounds great. I'm like, yeah, that's probably correct. And sure enough, that's what the data shows. So this is just another example of the data. Really, it's really representative of what's going on with the weapons, guys. Okay, this is important, and you got to know this is. Remember, the suppression rating is it's inner ear risk. Okay, guys, that's what this is. It's inner ear risk. I'm not playing games with you. I'm not giving a score to the silencer to win first place. I'm telling you how damaging it is to your hearing on a weapon system in accordance with the shot dose scale. Okay, so forget about the trophies. Okay, you need this is inner ear risk for human beings. That's what the suppression rating is. Okay, I really think that's important to understand. Now, to keep comparing this NT4 to other silencers, let's move to stuff that isn't quite as flowy, right? Like Saker. Silencer Co. Saker, Otter Creek Labs Polonium. Yeah, that's going to be quieter than an NT4 to bystanders. It's going to restrict flow a lot more, though. You know? So you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for a little bit because you have higher back pressure, so the shooter's not going to, probably not going to have quite as good as an experience on the Mark 18 because of that. And that's just how that works, okay? It's just really interesting. It's really interesting that the NT4 is so similar and balanced in signature to a lot of these silencers. And I said that in the article, okay, because the Knight's Arm, just the construction of the silencer and the baffle design, it does it in a really unique way. And KAC silencer stuff has always been pretty unique. And it's really good to see it stand the test of time. I think this is cool. I mean, a lot of people knew that this thing sounded pretty good, and we knew it was very unique. And what's really, really cool is that we see that uniqueness in the data, guys. We see it. We see the people's anecdotal, subjective impressions of the sound signature. We see that pop up in the suppression rating, guys. We see it. All of this is so consistent with decades and decades of experience. Perhaps the NT4 sound signature review might be one of the biggest, gross, large-scale validation cases for the suppression rating and silencer sound standard in the history of suppressible alarms. Okay? I mean, a lot of people have this silencer, guys. A lot of people have this silencer, and a lot of people have the SOCOM 5.56 RC2, and I think that's so awesome. Because if this data was wrong, people would be coming out of the woodwork to contradict it. Okay? It's right there. It's public. It's published on my website. And it's incredible that it's there now. I'm so honored to be able to test the silencer. You guys don't, some of you might not understand how big a deal this is. Like, if you're a silencer person, you might not understand. And that's okay. You eventually you will. But you might not. You might not ever have the same enthusiasm, or maybe it's nostalgia. Either way, the fact that NT4 is in Figure 5 on that list and the data's real is pretty dang cool, man. I enjoy doing the test. I enjoy doing the work. I enjoyed doing the analysis. I enjoyed sharing it with all of you. I hope you get a chance to check out the article. I do. If you ever get a chance to shoot one of these things, if you ever get a chance to shoot an NT4, you should. You should shoot one, dude. It's old. It's heavy. The silencer is super loose on the mount. It comes with the mount. You put the mount, it like rotates. It's like what in the world? It's like you put this on the mount and you're like, this is good. What? I paid how much for this? No, I'm serious. It's embarrassing the way it fits. The C clip, it's a pain in the butt to actuate. It's hard to use and it's expensive. It's like it's going to cost you. But man, it sure does look cool. And it sounds pretty good. So there you go. That's it. That's the NT4. Okay. I hope you guys got a kick out of that. Excuse me. Get some water. Okay. Let's move. I just think that's so cool. We'll move into topic 3 at a time of 1 hour, 15 minutes. And 57 seconds. Man, guys, this 9 silencers, I think when you pull the curtain back, and yeah, they're cool and they're influential, but technology has advanced a long time since the mid-90s. So don't be surprised if your favorite nice armament stuff isn't really competitive with some of the very high performance stuff nowadays. And that's just the way it works. That's the way the world works. Okay, so don't be too upset. Still cool. Topic 3, received some pretty big contributions recently to PEW Science, and I'm very honored. And really, this whole effort's being fostered by generous folks. You guys are so generous. And all the PEW Science members are so cool. I talk to you all the time. Clients are really cool, and I hope I'm doing a good job for you guys. I'm really working hard for you. And I salute all you groups, and everybody listening to the podcast to you. I hope you continue to find benefit from this work. I know I'm finding personal benefit from it. I hope I can share that with you. So, I've been working pretty hard recently, and I'm reminded daily how gracious you guys can be. So thank you, you members and folks that donate. This comes out of left field and it's unexpected, and it's really great, and I appreciate it. It helps everything we do here. And I can't do it without you. Okay? And some really cool stuff is coming. And you guys are just going to have to bear with me for another week or so. But we'll hit a cool data train. There's going to be a good... We're going to hit a cool data train, and I think you're going to like it. I think it'll come out of left field, which is always nice. And I think we're hitting the halfway point of 2022 here. And I think things are just going to get better. Okay? So I hope all of you have a good rest of your week. Okay? I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know we had a kind of a potpourri of topics. Blake, I really hope you feel better. And I can't say enough great things about all you listening. I will talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.